The auction hall held its breath. On one side stood the heir to the British throne, Prince Charles, bidding on behalf of the crown. On the other, the last Queen of Hollywood, Elizabeth Taylor. At stake was not merely a jewel, but a tangible piece of the 20th century's most monumental story of love and abdication. The price soared sky high, yet the prince was forced to withdraw. Taylor emerged victorious, later declaring with conviction, "The Duchess wanted this brooch to belong to me." What sorcery was this? What secret did these diamond feathers hold, compelling a future king to surrender and a cinema icon to believe in a mystical connection across time? Today, we'll peel back the shimmering veneer of auction lore from the authentic narrative and discover why this brooch became a symbol not just of royal authority, but of a forbidden love that cost a throne. To grasp the true significance of this brooch, we must transport ourselves to the mid-1930s. The world teetered on the brink of monumental upheaval, yet in the glittering salons of London and Paris, an air of superficial nonchalance still reigned. This was the era of Art Deco, a style defined by stringent lines, audacious geometry, and dazzling opulence. Fashion eschewed the sentimental flourishes of the past, demanding instead a pure, almost architectural beauty. It was within this world, caught between ancient traditions and bold new modernism, that a love story capable of shattering an empire began to unfold. The central figure in this saga was Edward, the Prince of Wales. More than just an heir to the throne, he was a style icon, the idol of his generation. He disdained the suffocating protocol of the court, seeking freedom in everything, in his attire, his pursuits, and most notably, in love. His heart belonged to a woman the British aristocracy could not and would not accept, the twice-divorced American, Wallis Simpson. Their affair was not merely a scandal. It was a direct affront to centuries-old traditions, with every single move scrutinized under a microscope. Within this climate of veiled opposition and all-consuming passion, Prince Edward resolved to give Wallis a gift. But this could not be just another beautiful bauble. He needed something more profound, a symbol that, without uttering a single word, would declare her singular status in his life. A piece of jewelry that would link her not merely to him as a man, but to him as the Prince of Wales, the future king. The concept was both intimate and defiantly public, to bestow upon her his very own heraldic emblem. To bring such a delicate and significant idea to life, the chosen house was one whose name was synonymous with royal elegance, Cartier. The jewelers of this esteemed house were virtuosos of the Art Deco style, uniquely capable of transforming platinum and diamonds into masterpieces both coolly precise and brimming with hidden passion. An order from the Prince of Wales was not just prestigious, it was momentous. To create a personal emblem for the heir to the throne intended for his unofficial consort, this was a task demanding not only unparalleled skill, but also absolute discretion. At the heart of the design lay an ancient symbol, 3 ostrich feathers, the emblem of the Princes of Wales since the Middle Ages. For centuries, this insignia had embodied duty, honor, and direct succession to the throne. By presenting it to Wallis in the form of a diamond brooch, Edward made an unprecedented gesture. He was sharing with her a piece of his royal essence, weaving her name into the fabric of British monarchical history even before the world learned of his ultimate decision. Thus, the birth of this masterpiece was dictated not by a matter of state, but by a profoundly personal drama. The brooch was conceived not as a ceremonial adornment, but as a secret vow, a tangible testament to a love more precious than a crown. It was a manifesto, cast in platinum, intended for one solitary woman who was poised to alter the course of history. Let's momentarily set aside the history and examine the brooch itself through the discerning eye of a jeweler. Before us lies the quintessence of Art Deco style, brought to life by the masters of Cartier. This is no soft, romantic piece from the Victorian era. It is a cool, almost mathematically precise manifesto. Its foundation is platinum, a metal prized by jewelers of the 1930s for its strength, purity, and its uncanny ability to become almost invisible, yielding the starring role to the stones. At the heart of the composition are the three famous feathers, but they are stripped of their natural softness. Cartier jewelers transformed them into sculptural, almost architectural elements. The central feather, subtly elevated above the two flanking ones, creates perfect symmetry. To recreate the feather structure, the master jewelers employed their signature technique. The quills are formed from perfectly matched baguette-cut diamonds, creating a continuous, icy line of light. From these lines, like the barbs of a real feather, radiate a cascade of round diamonds set in pavé, where hundreds of tiny stones form a unified, shimmering tapestry. Crowning the composition and serving as its base is a miniature Prince of Wales coronet. Here, the jewelers allowed themselves to place larger stones, which act as both the semantic and visual anchor of the entire piece. It is this detail that transforms the delicate feather motif into an undeniable symbol of royal authority. Every detail of the coronet, from the crosses to the heraldic fleur-de-lis, is executed with microscopic precision, affirming the highest echelon of craftsmanship. But the brooch's ultimate secret lies in its hidden symbolism. Beneath the coronet, a platinum ribbon curls, where, on the original crest, the motto of the Princes of Wales, Ich dien, German for I serve, would typically be placed. In this jeweled rendition, the words are absent, yet the ribbon itself is a direct allusion. And here arises a striking duality. A motto signifying service to the crown and country, when presented as a gift to a beloved woman, transforms into a vow of service to her. Edward, as if to say, my service, my duty, my title, all of this is now bound to you. Imagine holding this brooch in your hand. You would feel its pleasant, reassuring weight, the heft of platinum, and more than 200 diamonds of the finest quality. The metal would be cool to the touch, but the stones, catching the light, would instantly ignite with an inner fire, scattering iridescent sparks all around. You would hear the crisp, confident click of the double pin clasp, the sound of security and flawless Cartier mechanics. Technically, this piece is impeccable. The setting is crafted so skillfully that the diamonds appear to float in mid-air, held by an invisible force. This is the pinnacle of artistry, where the heavy manual labor of the jeweler becomes utterly imperceptible, leaving the beholder with only the pure impression of light and form. Thus, the anatomy of this treasure is not merely a list of materials. It is an encrypted message. Each baguette-cut diamond is a line from a letter, each round stone an emotion. The cool platinum represents the unyielding British court, while the inextinguishable radiance of the diamonds symbolizes the power of a love strong enough to melt even the ice of monarchical traditions. The brooch's first public appearance was not tied to a state reception or a coronation. Its triumph was quiet, yet no less deafening. It unfolded in the closed world of British high society, where glances are sharper than daggers and whispers can shatter a reputation. Picture one of those glittering London evenings in the mid-1930s. The room is filled with aristocrats whose ancestors had stood by the throne for centuries. The air crackles with unspoken tension. Everyone awaits the arrival of the heir to the throne and his American paramour. And then they enter. Wallis Simpson, as always, was the embodiment of austere elegance. She wore no elaborate gown befitting a future queen. On the contrary, she chose a simple, almost sculptural dark dress by Schiaparelli, which accentuated her delicate figure and served as a perfect canvas. She made no attempt to imitate British nobility with their inherited tiaras and pearls. Her style was her weapon, modern, audacious, and utterly self-assured. Her entire demeanor exuded cool composure, defying the judgmental stares. Eyes swept over her, searching for fault, and then suddenly froze. On the dark fabric of her dress, directly over her heart, a dazzling diamond flash gleamed. At first, it was merely a spot of light, but as eyes adjusted, a shocking realization dawned. These were not just feathers in the fashionable animalistic style of the day. This was a crest, the crest of the Prince of Wales, his personal sacred symbol, now adorning the dress of a divorced American woman. At that precise moment, the brooch ceased being a mere piece of jewelry and transformed into a political manifesto. It was a royal seal by which Edward tacitly marked his woman, placing her under his protection and proclaiming her as his territory. For Wallis, this adornment became armor. It not only completed her ensemble, it imbued it with an unshakable status. Every single diamond in it screamed, "I am his choice. Condemn me if you dare." The ripple of reaction that swept through the room was almost palpable. Admiration for the jeweller's artistry mingled with the aristocracy's thinly veiled horror. The envy of women who yearned for the prince's attention intertwined with the angry murmurs of courtiers who saw this gesture as sacrilege and a threat to the monarchy. This was no mere social debut for an adornment. It was the first shot fired in an undeclared war between love and duty, a war that would very soon lead to a constitutional crisis and an abdication. That evening, the diamond feathers first asserted their historical role, the role of a symbol for the greatest royal scandal of the century. After the abdication and exile, a new life began for the Duke and Duchess of Windsor. They created their own court in Paris, brilliant and impeccable, becoming a mecca for the global elite. In this world, where every public appearance was a spectacle and every outfit a statement, Wallis Simpson's jewels became her primary language. And among all the treasures in her legendary jewelry box, the Prince of Wales' feather brooch held a truly special place. Now that Edward had forever relinquished that title, the adornment transformed from a symbol of the future into a precious fragment of the past. This was the golden age of the brooch. The Duchess, possessing impeccable, almost austere taste, understood how to wear such a significant piece. She never overloaded her look. Most often, the feathers appeared on the lapel of a crisp Chanel jacket or on the smooth fabric of a simple black Givenchy dress. This minimalist backdrop allowed the diamonds to shine with even greater intensity and the heraldic symbol to speak even more loudly. In her hands, the brooch was not a gaudy display of wealth. It was a mark of distinction, almost an order, which she wore with pride and a hint of defiance. For the Duchess, this brooch was a talisman of their shared destiny. It was tangible proof of the incredible sacrifice made for her by the man born to be king. When she pinned it to her dress, it was more than just a fashion statement. It was a daily ritual, a reaffirmation of their union, a silent dialogue with her husband. For him, seeing the symbol of his lost destiny on the woman he loved, it was a bittersweet reminder. He longed for his past, surrounding himself with objects from that life. But this brooch, shining on Wallis, was the one symbol that brought him no regret, only confirmation of the rightness of his choice. Imagine a dinner in their famed Parisian home on the edge of the Bois de Boulogne. Among the guests, aristocrats, artists, billionaires. The Duchess, the perfect hostess, glides through the room, and the light from the crystal chandeliers catches the facets of the diamond feathers. The adornment draws every eye, but no one dares to speak of it directly. Everyone already understands its meaning. It is a silent reproach to the British court, which never granted her the title of Her Royal Highness. It is a declaration of their independence and the unbreakable nature of their union. The brooch became an integral part of Wallis Simpson's public image, her calling card. Photographs from those years captured her wearing this jewel at Ascot races, at charity galas, and while vacationing in Biarritz. While her other famous jewels, like the Cartier Panther, spoke of her love for fashion and luxury, the Prince of Wales' feathers told her story. It wasn't merely a piece of jewelry she wore. This was a bauble that adorned her past, her present, and her singular place in the annals of history. In the hands of this iconic trendsetter, the brooch lived its most vibrant and meaningful life, forever becoming a symbol of a love that proved mightier than power, and of a woman for whom the very narrative of the British monarchy was rewritten. Yet, behind the dazzling facade of a grand love story and impeccable style, shadows lurked, secrets rarely whispered at auction houses. The Prince of Wales' feathers brooch wasn't just a witness to passion, it was a silent participant in some of the most contentious episodes within the House of Windsor. Its icy brilliance illuminated not only gilded ballrooms, but also the shadowy corridors of 20th century political intrigue. The most unsettling chapter in the brooch's saga involved the Duke and Duchess's disturbing sympathies toward the Nazi regime. Their infamous visit to Germany in 1937, where they met with Hitler, cast a long, dark shadow over their reputation. Imagine the jarring dissonance, a symbol of the heir to the British throne, an emblem of service to the crown, sparkling on the Duchess's gown in the company of those who plotted to bring that very empire to its knees. In this context, the heraldic motto, Ich dien, I serve, took on a sinister ambiguity. These political scandals inevitably spawned financial whispers. A life of opulent exile, an unending stream of commissions from Paris's finest jewelers, all demanded colossal sums. While the brooch itself was a gift bestowed before the abdication, Wallis Simpson's entire collection raised uncomfortable questions about the sources of their wealth. These rumors, even if unsubstantiated by direct evidence of financial malfeasance, wove an aura of unspoken mystery around their treasures, including this very brooch. In a different era, another legend was born, this one not scandalous, but almost mystical. This was Elizabeth Taylor's famous declaration after purchasing the brooch, "The Duchess wanted me to have it." It was a beautiful and powerful narrative that injected even more drama into the auction lot. However, it's crucial to understand, no letters, no diary entries, no verifiable testimonies exist to confirm that Wallis Simpson ever bequeathed or promised the brooch to the actress. More likely, it was a captivating myth of Taylor's own making. She genuinely believed in her spiritual connection with the Duchess, and that conviction fueled her fight for the peace until the very end. Thus, the brooch's story is far less straightforward and romantic than it might appear at first glance. It bears the indelible imprint not only of a grand love, but also of political compromises, social ostracism, and personal mythologies. These shadows and whispers do not diminish its beauty. On the contrary, they transform it from a mere adornment into a complex, multifaceted historical artifact, each diamond of which holds its own, at times inconvenient, secret. The final years of the Duchess of Windsor unfolded in quiet solitude. The glittering Parisian court she and the Duke had created faded away. After her husband's passing, Wallis rarely appeared in public, and her legendary jewels mostly lay dormant in a safe. The diamond feathers, once a symbol of defiance and indestructible love, waited in silent anticipation. With the passing of their owner in 1986, it wasn't merely a life that concluded. An entire epoch, brimming with sparkle, scandal, and grand passions, came to an end. Following the Duchess's death, her will was executed. The entire jewelry collection, which had become a chronicle of her life, was to be sold at Sotheby's, with the proceeds bequeathed to the Pasteur Institute. Thus, the brooch, alongside other treasures, embarked on its final journey from private dominion to public display. From a talisman, it transformed into a mere lot number. It was photographed, meticulously catalogued, and appraised. Its brief life in the shadows was a period of cold, objective inventory, a quiet before the storm. And the storm broke in Geneva in April of 1987. The atmosphere in the auction hall was electrifying, charged to its very limits. This was no mere bidding war, it was the dissection of a historical legacy. When the Prince of Wales' feathers brooch was presented on a velvet cushion, a hush fell over the room. This symbol wasn't merely sought after by collectors. Two powerful forces entered the fray: The old world, embodied by the British crown, eager to reclaim the iconic piece for the family, and the new world, personified by Hollywood royalty, Elizabeth Taylor. Tension mounted with every raised paddle. This was a duel not of pocketbooks but of potent symbols. Prince Charles, acting through his representatives, sought to rectify a historical anomaly and perhaps present the brooch to his wife, the new Princess of Wales, Diana. Elizabeth Taylor, however, fought for an object she believed was hers by spiritual right. Bids soared, climbing to an astronomical sum. At a certain point, the prince's representatives lowered their hand. The hammer's strike resonated like a final chord. The Wallis-Simpson era had definitively concluded. A new life began for the diamond feathers. The brooch didn't merely change hands, it transitioned from one legend to another, making a triumphant return to the global stage. If its previous home had been exclusive aristocratic salons, now it awaited red carpets and flashing cameras. The new guardian of this treasure was Elizabeth Taylor, a woman who, much like Wallis-Simpson, had known both global adoration and public condemnation for her own forbidden loves. This wasn't merely an acquisition, it was a symbolic passing of the torch. With this transition, the interpretation of the jewel also fundamentally shifted. In the hands of the Duchess of Windsor, it was a fragment of a throne, a personal and almost painful symbol of sacrifice and abdication. It was a story of politics, power, and exile. In Elizabeth Taylor's collection, the brooch was transformed. It became a relic of great female destinies, a talisman for women who dared to place love above public opinion. Politics receded into the background, yielding to the pure, concentrated myth of passion's power. The brooch ceased to be a reproach to the British monarchy and became an anthem for all rebellious hearts. The manner of wearing it also changed. Wallis's strict, impeccably tailored elegance gave way to Taylor's Hollywood glamour. The actress, who adored large, striking jewels, wore the diamond feathers with her characteristic regal nonchalance. They might appear on a lavish caftan during a charity gala in Los Angeles or on a velvet gown at an awards ceremony. The adornment, accustomed to the subdued light of Parisian chandeliers, now sparkled under blinding spotlights, and this new brilliance imparted even more luster and audacity. It was precisely at this moment that the brooch's value reached its absolute peak. The $565,000 paid in 1987 was merely a financial reflection of this. Its true worth became incalculable. Now, its provenance, its history of ownership, was absolutely unique. Created for a future king, bestowed upon a scandalous duchess, and then wrestled from the crown by a Hollywood queen, such a biography elevated the brooch from a mere piece of jewelry to a cultural artifact of planetary significance. For Elizabeth Taylor, this piece wasn't simply an investment. It was a trophy, a validation of her own belief that magnificent jewels should belong to those who could appreciate their history and the passion they held within. She carefully preserved the brooch for decades, making it one of the jewels in her own equally legendary collection. Thus began the second golden age of the diamond feathers, which definitively cemented their status as an immortal legend. With Elizabeth Taylor's passing in 2011, the world held its breath. Her legendary collection, assembled with love and passion, was once again destined for the judgment of the auctioneer's hammer. The Christie's sale became the year's major social and cultural event, the sale of the century. And when the diamond feathers once again gleamed on velvet, it became clear that the final chapter of their public story was being written before our very eyes. The battle for the lot was brief but fierce. The final strike of the hammer recorded a new, staggering price, $1,314,500. This sum more than doubled what Taylor herself had paid. But the new owner's name remained a mystery. Today, the Prince of Wales Feathers brooch is part of a private, anonymous collection. It has vanished from red carpets and the social pages, moving into the quiet security of a vault, becoming an almost mythical object. This transition into the hands of an unknown collector marked the definitive culmination of its transformation. The jewel definitively ceased to be an accessory. After being worn by two such significant 20th century icons, it acquired the status of a relic. It can no longer be simply donned for a reception. To wear it now means to bear the entire weight of its history, from a king's abdication to Hollywood dramas. It is now a historical artifact, its primary purpose being to be preserved for eternity. What then constitutes its modern value? Undeniably, it's the flawless diamonds and platinum, the masterful craftsmanship of the House of Cartier. But their material worth is only a fraction of the final sum. The brooch's true price is its provenance. It's the love story of Edward and Wallis, woven into every facet. It's the thrill of the auction battle between Prince Charles and Elizabeth Taylor. It's the dazzle of two legendary women who made it their own. Every dollar in its price is a payment for the right to possess not just diamonds, but a tangible fragment of a grand history. So we return to the question posed at the very beginning. What was the magic of these diamond feathers? What secret compelled a future king to step down and a cinematic diva to believe in her fated victory? The answer is both simple and complex. The magic wasn't in the stones, but in the story they absorbed. For Prince Charles, it was an opportunity to reclaim a symbol, tarnished by abdication, yet still part of the royal heritage. For Elizabeth Taylor, it was not a purchase, but an act of spiritual kinship, the acquisition of a relic from a woman whose destiny she understood like no other. This brooch is perfect proof that magnificent jewels are mirrors. In Wallis Simpson's hands, they reflected icy pride and the bitter sweetness of the sacrifice made for her. On Elizabeth Taylor's gown, they sparkled as a trophy, a symbol of passion's triumph over convention. The adornment itself remained unchanged, but the people did, and it, like a sensitive resonator, captured and amplified their emotions, their dramas, and their triumphs. And therein lies the main takeaway of our story. The Prince of Wales' feathers brooch is not merely platinum and diamonds. It is the physical embodiment of human passions cast in metal. Frozen within it is the all-consuming love of a king ready to give up everything. Within it, the cold resolve of a woman who defied an empire. Within it, the thrill and pride of collectors who fought for the right to possess not a mere object, but a legend. The journey of this jewel is a path from an intimate gift to a public manifesto, from a personal talisman to a world-renowned artifact. It outlived its creators and owners, and with each new stage of its life, it only gained in price and significance, accumulating ever more layers of myths and meanings. Today, the diamond feathers are hidden from our sight in a private collection, and perhaps we will never see them in public again. But that no longer matters. Their light is so brilliant that no vault can conceal it. They continue to live on in old photographs, in auction catalogues, and most importantly, in our imaginations. Because true masterpieces ultimately cease to belong to any single individual. They become the legacy of history. And as long as we remember great love, great sacrifices, and great women, this brooch will shine eternally, reminding us that the most enduring treasures are not those that can be hidden, but those that forever remain in memory.